Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Brooke Mitchell, and today's webinar is Nat Hab's 2024 Guest Photo Contest Wrap Up with the judging panel of Mike Hillman, Court Whalen, Dana Kama, Giulia Ciampini, and Richard De Govia. All of you right there. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Mike, I will send it over to you.
Well, hello everyone, and we are very excited today to talk about the winners of our guest photo contest this year. Just to give you an idea of the stats behind this contest. So we started this contest at the end of October through November, and over the course of that, we had 819 photographers submit entries, because of course photographers could submit multiple entries if they wanted to. We got 3,577 photos. And of that, with our voting, public voting, we got nearly 50,000 votes, which is fantastic. Really appreciate all the participation from our photographers, from friends and family, and those folks voting. And of course, everyone here today that wants to see how everyone did. I also want to give a big shout out and thanks to the team behind the scenes that really made this guest photo contest work. Of course, the people you see on your screen right now are just the jurors. We did a lot of work to select our top 10 photos and top 3 in the winners and all that kind of stuff. But there was a team of website and marketing and all these different individuals at Nat Hab that worked behind the scenes to make sure this contest ran smoothly. So thanks to all of them. And we'll go ahead and get started talking a little bit more about our entries. So before we get too far into it and start giving out our winners, I want to remind folks of what the prizes and awards look like that we're going to be covering today. So first, we're going to be covering People's Choice. So those are those 50,000 votes that have gotten divvied up between all those 3,500 photos. The grand prize, first place, is going to take 5,000 in trip credit for Natural Habitat Adventures. Second place, 3,000, and third place, 1,000. Now, on top of that, we'll switch screens between our little presentation here, and we've got ourselves a program that's going to actually pick out of all those 50,000 votes, someone's going to win either their choice, a $500 Visa gift card or $500 donation towards World Wildlife Fund. So we'll reach out to you, whoever that winner is, when they get chosen to decide which they'd like to choose. Then from there, this is where our jurors will come in, is talking about expert's choice. So we've spent a lot of time reviewing all of those photos to try to figure out just which were those top photos. And for the expert's choice category, the grand prize, again, $5,000 in trip credits. Second place, 3,000, and third place, 1,000. So there's a lot of money to be had, and we wish you all the best of luck. So as we get into it, we want to introduce you to our jury of photo experts. So we'll do a quick little biography of each one of us. You get to know us and understand who was selecting these photos for this contest. I'll start with myself. Again, my name is Mike Hillman. I'm the Photo Expeditions Director for Natural Habitat Adventures. And so part of my responsibility is the kind of marketing and talking about our photo expeditions, as well as consulting with all the different departments that are behind the scenes, trying to put out the best possible photo trips that we can here at Natural Habitat to make sure that photographers like you are able to go out into the field, get the photos that you're hoping for, and have a really immersive and engaging experience out there in nature, wherever you may go. So I'm originally from Michigan. I live down in Arizona now. As you can see on the screen, I shoot Sony. I have a Sony A1, and a couple of my particular favorite photographic subjects are bears. I'm an Alaska guide. I worked up in Churchill and Yellowstone, so I love photographing bears as well as photographing birds. I think those are some great subjects, and we oftentimes will see lots of birds on any number one of our trips we get a chance to go on. And so that's a little bit about me. Here is a little bit of my portfolio. You can see between the birds, bears, and some of the smaller creatures, I have a lot of fun photographing out there in nature. Moving on to Dana.
Hi, my name is Dana. I am the manager of social and expedition content at Nat Hab. Been working at Nat Hab for 2.5 years now. Originally from New York, but I live in my little camper van. so that I can spend large chunks of time in nature photographing wildlife. So probably some of my favorite subjects to photograph would be bears as well. I spent 5 months living up in Alaska last year, mostly focusing on photographing bears. Um, and yeah, I also work heavily on managing all of the images coming in through Nat Hub's adventure portal. So all of the images that everybody uploads into there, I have eyes on all of that stuff. And I also work with our field team, like our expedition leaders, working with them on all of their images coming in from the field as well. So basically photo and video content. Oh, and I work on our video team as well, on all the little Nat Hub films that we make about our team and conservation and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Dana. Court?
Oh, hi everyone, Court here. Yeah, I have been photographing for over 20 years around the world, expedition leader at Nat Hab. I have guided in, gosh, some odd 60 countries around the world, so the world is very much my home. But born and raised in Florida, spent a number of years out in Colorado, and then back in Florida for the next little stint. But as you can see from the variety shots here, all around the world is really my playground. So these days, I'm specializing in a handful of areas, including monarch butterfly expeditions, Alaska, Borneo, and Madagascar, kind of going counterclockwise from bottom right, those areas. Gosh, what else do I do? Well, I head up sustainability at NatHab. If you've seen some of our storytelling as well as publications on sustainability, like our 2024 sustainability report that just was published, that's a big reason behind photography. A big why of mine is to showcase the beauty of our wild world for everyone to enjoy. I am currently shooting on Canon system. I have an R5, switched over to the mirrorless system a couple years ago, and have never looked back. It's a brilliant system. And yeah, pleasure to be here today. Looking forward to seeing and commenting on what are some just absolutely stunning photographs.
Thanks, Court. Julia?
Hi guys, sorry you can't see me. I'm on expedition right now in Panama and I'm having a little bit of trouble with my screen. But my name is Julia Ciampini and I'm a guide and I guide worldwide. I've guided in about 40 countries now, specifically as a photo instructor. I have a background in biology as well as science and education and a master's of fine arts in documentary photography. So with Nat Hab, I guide often in Churchill and do the polar bear programs, beluga programs, and their Northern Lights program. So excited to be here with this panel of amazing judges and can't wait to talk about your images.
Great, thank you. Rich?
Hi guys, it's very difficult to follow that little start by my four other colleagues. My name's Richard de Gavert. I've been with Nat Hab for about 10 years now. I've been guiding for just over 15 years, mostly in Africa, but slowly spreading my fingers into the rest of the world, which is very exciting. And I just love being behind the camera and telling stories and helping people take beautiful photographs by teaching them about photography. I'm an ambassador for Sony Alpha and I still shoot with Sony Alpha. I have a multitude of cameras and lenses which follow me around depending on the locations. But the reason behind the photography is really storytelling, trying to get moments across that allow people to connect with these animals, specifically endangered animals like we can see the gorillas, the wild dogs, and the rhino down the bottom, just to allow people to really feel it and express their conservation need, maybe get out to see them, and for those that never get to be out in the field, for them to connect with these things and see the beauty of them as close as what they can.
Great. Thanks, Rich. Well, that is our jury, our judging panel for our contest this year. And from here, we'll get right into the photos. So to start off with, we're going to start with a People's Choice winner. So again, these were voted in by the people through our photo contest website. And of those 50,000 votes, we'll see how much each of our top 3 vote getters got. So in third place with 1,860 votes, we have this photo from Mike Thomas. Court, you want to talk about this one?
I absolutely do. I love this photo. This is extraordinary. There are so many things going on here, but there's also a beautiful simplicity. One of the things that jumps out to me that I absolutely love in photography, something I'm trying to do more of in my own work, is that idea of minimalism and that idea of kind of extreme contrast and light. And so what this photographer did, Mike, congrats. I really, really love this, is likely overexpose the photo so it minimizes distraction from the background. Is it foggy? Are there mountains in the background? Was it a clear day? We're not sure because very likely that bear subject was a little bit in the shadows, little underexposed itself. So by ramping the camera up, it created this beautiful kind of silhouette, almost portrait effect. You mix that with that beautiful moment of the bear's head moving out of the water. You can see the motion. Awesome combination of stopping the motion in that photography, but also showing the motion because of the actual instantaneous point in its behavior. I think the fact that you also got a gull, not just in the scene, but really nicely at one of those rule of thirds intersection points, the bear at the other rule of thirds intersection points, and then both the bear obviously looking at the camera, but the gull sort of looking towards the camera so you can see that nice profile side. It's really just a terrific shot. But not only did you get the moment, did you get the bear looking, you were zeroing in the subject, the eyes are in tack sharp focus, excellent settings with shutter speed and aperture, but more than anything, playing with light to completely blow out the background and minimize distractions to showcase what's most important in the scene. So well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree with that. I think uh, I was looking at this photo and wondering, like, oh, would I have just taken the photo of just the bear and gotten that scene? And it would have been a decent photo, but I think adding that gull kind of adds that additional story element to this photo. And so I definitely commend Mike on this, and I can understand why people voted this in at third place. Perfect. So moving on to second place, getting 2,437 votes, we have this Arctic Fox by Dave Taub.
Dave, I'm going to take this one on, and I really love this image. I think from somebody that doesn't shoot in high contrast or in this very bright snow, the idea of trying to balance out exposures where your camera's trying to push everything and darken everything because of the white, you really manage to bring the colors and the exposure back to what it should be. The positioning of the fox looking into the photograph, the leading lines of the grass pointing you in that way, the buffer of the rocks at the bottom being a beautiful stopper so that my eye doesn't want to go down and out of the photograph, really adds a lot of things. And seeing the snow and ice at the back just gives me a sense of space. I've always been a fan of wildlife in their space, and we're always so tempted to go straight in on a face and zoom in and get as close as possible and fill the frame with the animal. But I like the idea of putting the animal in its natural habitat so that people can get a sense of what's there. And my eye gets led out to the corner, wondering what it's looking at. Is it hunting? That stance that it's up, its head's down. All of that just tells a beautiful story. And I think you've done a wonderful job, Dave.
Fantastic. Anyone want to add anything else? Great. I think I definitely agree with Rich on this one. Having an animal in its context is super powerful. So I like this image a lot as well. All right. In first place for our People's Choice contest with 3,430 votes, we have this Mother Brown Bear by Rosalind Hume. Congratulations, Rosalind. I love this photo for a lot of reasons. I think one of the things you oftentimes do when you're a wildlife photographer, you're out in the environment, is kind of as Richard was saying, is you're getting that photo of that portrait or that headshot or something close in, and you're just getting that image of the animal just existing. And I think it's something incredibly powerful to actually capture a moment, capture emotion. It can be very difficult to sometimes do that. Of course, it depends on the species and exactly what that looks like. One of the personal reasons why I love photographing bears is because they are very emotive. You can oftentimes capture these little moments, whatever they happen to be, through these bears' eyes. And so I 100% agree with this vote. by the people for this particular photo, because this moment between this mother bear and this cub, I love the fact that the cub's not actually touching mom just yet. It's very close. That claw is just almost on the face of mother. I think that adds that little context, and it tells that through line of that story of that incredibly powerful connection between a mother bear and her cub. And so, Rosalind, fantastic job with this. I think this is a great moment to capture out there, and I'm assuming in Alaska.
Yeah, big kudos in this shot as well. I'll just jump in here. Love this photo. And what a perfect portrayal of using your tools to the best of your advantage. Very likely shot on multiple frames a second, what we call like a high drive motor. And it's hard to explain this without example photos when I'm talking about this to guests. But the advantage of being able to shoot 10, 20 frames per second means that there are slight differences when there's animal wildlife behavior in motion that you can get. There's going to be 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 40 shots that are the best. And this is a perfect example where you can see almost how that paw is just perfectly shaped with a little bit of space. It's not overlapping the mom. You can see that paw. The paw is almost the subject of the scene in a way, and you're seeing that interaction. In addition, the mother is just kind of turning her head a little bit, and you can tell that nose, that snout is just curled up a little bit as if she's kind of acknowledging, she's communicating, she might be sniffing, and that's what that technique gets you. So yeah, brilliant job of using the tools properly and getting a really creative, beautiful shot in every way.
I'll just say this image just makes me feel something, which I love when images do that. I see so many images of bears all the time, and there's some that stick out that just make me feel something, and that's what this one does. So great job, Rosalind.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so from here, now that we've gone through the People's Choice winners, we're going to actually do our voters drawing to see, of the people that voted, those 50,000 votes, who is going to win that $500 Visa gift card or donation towards World Wildlife Fund for $500. So I'm going to switch my screen over to our drawing screen. And can everybody see my screen now? Jurors? Yep. All right, so I'm going to hit start here, and it's going to count down. Let's see who our winner is.
This is
All right,
exciting.
congratulations to Tina. We'll be sure to reach out to you to let you know you've won. Congratulations, Tina, and thanks for voting on our photo contest.
Well done.
All right, moving back. All right, so from here, we're going to start talking about those photos that we as the judging panel got a chance to review and look for. And I felt rather than just going right through the top 3, I think there were 10 photos that we kind of settled in on that we really enjoyed for various reasons. And so the first 7 photos we're going to go through are our honorable mentions. So don't necessarily win anything officially through the competition, but we just wanted to highlight these photos, talk about them a little bit, and just show you some amazing photography that our guests were able to get while out on trips with Natural Habitat Adventures. So Julia, would you like to talk about this first one?
Absolutely. And you can't see me right now, but I'm smiling so big because this is such a beautiful photograph. The photographer here, Teresa, has caught this really intimate moment between mother and cub, and it's that universal theme that we can all kind of identify with. There's such a sweet gaze with the mother facing the camera, and how tender and gentle their connection is. A soft background created by a shallow depth of field and a long lens. What a gem shot. Good job, Teresa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the eye contact in this one in particular is fantastic. The fact that you're getting both mom and cubs looking at the camera at the same time, it's a difficult thing. Knowing several of us spend a lot of time photographing bears, and it's hard to get the cub and mom to do the same thing at any one time. So well done capturing this moment.
And as Dana had said earlier, there's some photos that just make you feel something, and I feel something. I love it. Well done, Teresa.
That cub looks like it's smiling almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. All right, moving on to the next one, Court.
Oh gosh, what a good photo. This is just your landmark, your classic superb landscape photo. Landscape photos behave by a little bit of different rules compared to wildlife, right? You have that time to set up. This was set up perfectly. You can see the light is coming in at that beautiful angle. And it plays with that light and dark contrast, something that I'm always trying to achieve. And especially, with wildlife, if you get it, that's great. If you don't, there's still a lot of ways you can make a great photo. But this one came together to really maximize what I can only imagine to be early in the day or late in the evening with that angular golden light. In addition, with landscape photos, it really pays to be meticulous with composition. And we often think about traditional rules of composition like the rule of thirds, right? If you break the scene down into the thirds horizontally or vertically, absolutely checks all those boxes. But another rule of composition that really can, if you can add this on to other rules, it just makes your photo better and better and better. And that's leading lines. That leading line of the ridge of that dune kind of guiding your eye, it draws you in because there's that hard line of the shadows and the bright at the very kind of bottom of the scene that captures your attention, and then you have a line that basically forces the viewer's eyes to go deeper and deeper in the scene. And on that journey of your eyes following it deeper and deeper and deeper, you're noticing textures and nuances and little ridges in more beautiful color, and then it takes you to the edge of the scene, the end of the scene. So this technique of leading lines is one of the most powerful in landscape photography and any photography, because it gets the viewer's eyes to take a journey through the photo and capture, even though there are probably a handful of colors and a handful of textures, you get to appreciate all those little nuances because of what I do believe to be perfect composition in this photo. So Rebecca, well done.
I'll also chime in here, and with that leading line, it feels like I'm climbing the dune. As I follow that line, those details that Court talks about, I feel like I'm trudging up that dune and finding the new pieces as I go up there. So really well done.
Yeah, fantastic.
Right, so we have a leopard. Now, this is my favorite thing in the world to photograph is a leopard. And recently a jaguar because it's like a leopard on steroids. So, but looking at this leopard, I love the black and white. It was the only one of our top 10 that actually made it to black and white. So I really like the composition, the use of monochrome to bring out those eyes, the pose of the leopard in that really sleepy moment, the lead wood it's lying on because of the textures in the wood, and the balance of light. Again, what we were talking about with that overexposing slightly, having that brighter background to remove any distraction from the back, because if you get it too much in focus, you might have other branches or things that come in the background that start to mess with the eye and take you away from the subject itself. So I just really love the pose and the eyes, and the fact that it was chosen in a black and white field, where Court was talking about that monochrome, or bringing overexposing it, or we call it high key, and that black and white really works well in high key. So well done, Jody.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it was a very smart decision here because oftentimes when you look at a photo of a leopard or some other species that we visit with Nat Hab, they're very colorful. The idea is always like, oh, well, you want to show off that color, that beautiful golden amber of the leopard. And so making that somewhat brave choice is to take that color away that's so iconic for the leopard, but understanding the textures of the log and the spots of the cat are going to do a lot of the work to make it visually intriguing. That was a good call, Jody.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll add, it can be challenging photographing on safari, especially with wildlife and trees, because almost always you're not in the tree, or you shouldn't be in the tree with the wildlife, right? So we're oftentimes photographing up, but one of the brilliant things you can take advantage of, which Jody did nicely here, is a little bit of eye shine, because what that does is, because of the angle from you to the critter to the sun, is actually reflects a little bit of the sun, or I guess moon if it's at night, but the sun usually, and it creates a little bit of a twinkle in the eye. You can see it just ever so subtly. It brings a little bit of light, a little bit of highlight there. And once again, because you should always focus on the eyes, and the eyes are very much the window to kind of the soul of the animal of your subject, using that eye shine when you can, because of being on the ground, animal in the tree, and then sun even farther up. It's a really, really nice technique, and I see that employed beautifully here.
Great. Moving on. Next photo.
I'm up again. Yeah, what a great shot. You know, we that guide in Alaska in the north have seen similar things like this, but things don't always line up kind of perfectly, right? What I love about this is really the work that the photographer has done to put themselves in that position. So we're looking at, you know, near ground level. You can see that because the head and the body of the bear is ascending quite a bit above the shore. Now, yes, the bear is standing, but at eye level, it allows you to get a lot of nice background, and then choosing that background is something that I always really, really hamper on when I'm guiding my photo trips, is that, you know, we don't always get to choose our background. That sounds like a lofty idea, like, oh, I want that bear to be in front of a such and such, or in front of, you know, a mountain or a plain or wildflowers. But oftentimes, if you can move to the left or the right just by a couple feet, you can get that snowy capped peak in the background. You can get some of the green trees on the shoreline. Maybe that rock, which is in the foreground just below the bear, could be to the side of the animal or actually at the animal's feet. So I think really nice choice of positioning here. And of course, all of the camera settings are just spot on. You got great light, it's angled light. You've got a really, really intriguing behavior. So I love it. And, you know, the judges we were talking about just kind of offline, in you know the way we do, just talk about photo philosophy. It's always interesting to see when portrait orientation is chosen over landscape orientation, and I think it's something that we get so ingrained in taking landscape orientation, meaning, you know, horizontal. But in those cases when it is appropriate, it looks really, really darn good. And that's something that I've tried to employ more and more in my photography, whether it is actual landscape shots or wildlife shots. And there's a saying that actually a guest said to me that I now perpetuate and say to my guests is, do you know when you should take a portrait shot? Right after your landscape shot. So great job here, using that, you know, showcasing a tall animal with a tall photo, getting that sort of up to down vertical, really, really nice representation. Beautiful art here, Georgina.
Hmm. Yeah, catching a standing bear photo, the bears, when they stand, oftentimes it catches you off guard. So I definitely commend you, Georgina, and having your settings ready to go and getting that image as it stood up. Because you oftentimes, a lot of photographers on my bear trips, they miss it because it's so quick. They may not predict it. But yeah, well done. All that layering all the way back from the rock to the bear to the bay to the mountain behind. Beautiful. All right, this Jaguar by Bill Corbett.
Uh, Bill, the energy in the shot, it is so high energy, dynamic, powerful. You can almost feel the jaguar springing out of the water there. The patterns of the plants behind, again, the patterns of the spots on the jaguar are stunning. The eyes are beautiful and sharp. And one strange thing that was occurred to me from film study is people usually read from left to right. And anytime you have a subject moving from right to left, it adds a little bit more tension in the scene because we're not accustomed to looking in that direction. So really, really fascinating, beautiful subject. I think you got such a great picture here.
I also love the composition of it, that you've left the space where it came from and you haven't cut off its feet. So we would be tempted to move, even though we can't see the feet, to move the composition up so we can see the river. We know where the feet would be, even though it's an imaginary line down. The tail is still in there, which is another leading line. So as soon as you start drifting off to the right, that tail will pull you straight back and follow the action towards where it's going. It really is a beautiful, beautiful animal, beautiful photo, Bill.
Mm, I really love just the color of the image too, like the tone of the greens and the color of the water. It's just like it's not too oversaturated. It's just like a really, really beautiful color scheme. I've seen a lot of images come out of Brazil that can be, I mean, I know the lighting there can be really harsh, and I think the lighting and the color in this image is just really subtle and beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah, one quick thing to add here, just talking about the crop. Something I kind of noticed now looking back in this photo now multiple times is it looks like this bill might be like a 16 by 9 crop, which it makes it a little bit flatter, a little bit wider, which I wholly commend. Fun, interesting kind of little anecdote is, when photos, cameras, photography was originally set up, that 3 by 2 aspect ratio that we all typically know, the 4 by 6, the 8 by 12, the 24 by 36, that aspect ratio was designed because that's closest to what our eyes actually see, having, sort of this two-eyed vision system. We're normally used to seeing it in that 3:2 ratio. However, with science and technology in recent years, especially with the advent of widescreen TVs, it's found that actually that ratio is a little closer, instead of 3 by 2, a little closer to 16 to 9. That's actually a little closer to what our eyes see. So I really advise photographers out there to, in certain cases, consider the 16 by 9 crop, because in some cases it's more like what you would see if you were there in the boat, camera ready, looking at and looking for jaguars. So yeah, really great use of that. I think it's something that a lot of photographers should consider as they're going through their crops. Like, what would it look like if I chose the 16 by 9? And yeah, wonderful execution here, Bill.
Very good. Moving on to Chameleon by James Tang.
I'll take this one. I just love the story element of this photo. I feel like it's so dynamic and fun and just a really, really cool freeze frame moment. And I love the shallow depth of field, the color. I love that its tongue is out of focus and that everything else is. And just the shutter speed, and like, I've never been to this place, and this image makes me want to go. So I just think it's so well done, and the positioning of where you were, James, like, so, just such a cool shot. I was sort of teetering between if this was my favorite image or not. So yeah, such a cool moment.
Yeah,
Anytime
I
I see
love.
a picture of a chameleon,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
sorry, Mike. I was just gonna say, every time I see a picture of a chameleon, I love their hands and their feet. The structure, the anatomy of their hands and feet is so sweet. It's so cute.
Hmm. Yeah, and just I mean, of course, you don't get a lot of choice when it comes to exactly what the animal's doing in the moment. But the fact that you're able to capture that beautiful arch, I mean, because oftentimes when we talk about leading lines, like Court talked about earlier with that dune photo, like you're looking at a landscape and a trail or an edge of something, but to get the leading line out of the animal itself is really interesting. You don't see that as often, and so I mean, very much you focus on that head and that tongue, and you follow it all the way back to its tail wrapped around the tree branch. And so there's a lot of visual interest in this photo by capturing this moment. So well done. All right, last of our honorable mentions, this rainbow bear by Chris Higgs.
Yeah, what a rare moment to capture. This is one of my favorite places in the world, and I know this scene very, very well. So just overall, what an unbelievable thing to sync up, and you really put yourself in the perfect place at the perfect time. And I just think using rule of thirds and showing some space above the bear, and not just zooming in on just the bear with the rainbow behind it, but giving some space. I just think such a beautiful image. I love that it's not too oversaturated with the rainbow, because I think sometimes with rainbows that can happen. I love that it's just subtle. I think if I was to use a photo to describe the feeling of being at bear camp, this is what I would use. So I think just a perfect image for being in Lake Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, just really, really great job, Chris. Yeah.
The pot of
Yeah,
gold at the end of the rainbow.
oh, 100%. 100%.
Truly.
Yeah, well done. It's just magic, that photo. That's all I can think of. It's just
Yeah.
one of those moments that there's a lot of photographic skill and practice that goes into getting to that spot, but then nature has to step up to the plate as well. And this is just a magical moment that was captured. Great. So from here, we're going to now announce the top 3 winners of our photo experts category. So these 3 images will be receiving those prizes that I talked about earlier. As we talk about them, I just want to kind of remind folks what we what we looked at as jurors when it comes to looking at these photos, and of course all the other photos, the honorable mentions, and the other 3,500 photos that we had a chance to look at. So of course, one of the big things we're looking at. Ooh, somebody. One of the other big things we're looking at is technical excellence. So looking at the focus, looking at the exposure and the lighting, composition that we've been talking about, how the color was used, contrast, noise, those sorts of things. We're definitely looking at these images zoomed in and understanding how they fit against the other images that we see. We're also looking at originality and creativity. So understanding, getting some unique perspectives. Were there any creative techniques that were utilized, any imagination or a specific style of photography that was taken into account, as well as the emotional impact and storytelling. So does this photo evoke emotion? We've kind of already brought that up a couple of times, where those times when you can capture a moment, it can be very, very impactful, very powerful, and lends itself to a very good image. If there's some sort of interesting story or narrative to it, these are all these different categories and techniques that we looked at when it comes to these photos to get to these top 3. So in third place, we have this beautiful image by Mary Calamares from Dover, Massachusetts. I'll take this one to start things off. This is one image when we were going through this contest and we had the team behind the scenes looking at the hundreds of images that we went through. This one stuck with me right from the get-go when I first saw this image. This one was in the back of my head like, okay, this is definitely in my top 10. We'll see how it ranks against all the others. And it just kept winning and winning and winning. It's a beautiful landscape. It's a beautiful moment in so many different ways. I love the layers in this image. The fact that you have this beautiful cloud layer that's just giving you these little hints of the landscape below. I think it's a very interesting moment. I mean, I'm very much envious of Mary to be able to be in this moment up there in a hot air balloon. I mean, this must have been a spectacular morning. But you also get those 3 hot air balloons. One of the things I like to talk about in my compositional talks with my guests is the rule of 3s. So not just the rule of thirds where you split your image up, but the rule of 3s, and that when you can have 3 subjects in a photo, it can be quite powerful. So this hits that one perfectly. You have 3 hot air balloons and they create this leading line, basically following you through the scene out towards the center and then in towards the back. And in the crop of this one, I think, again, this might be 16 by 9 or close to it. You're only including what's necessary. You've got that beautiful cloud landscape. You've got that lovely mountain peaks that's sticking up out of the clouds in the somewhat center right. On the center left, you have your hot air balloons, and then just enough of the sky in the background that you highlight those beautiful peaks that you're heading off to in the distance. So that all combined with that capture of the light from the side, this is just a beautiful, beautiful landscape shot. So well done, Mary.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on all those points, and the fact that I know that this is Sossusvlei, it's a desert, and to see the clouds over the desert like that is really highlighted for me. Going, I want to see that like that. I mean, just the way the sun bounces off of it and it all rolls out, it's almost like this ocean of clouds where there's a completely dry nothingness underneath it. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and getting back to compositional techniques with landscape photography, another technique that I love, which Mary uses so well here, is framing. And it's an atypical framing. You normally think of framing as looking through trees or branches or somehow boxing the photo in, but just subtle framing with that horizon as a sliver, almost like exaggerated composition to show the expanse of the clouds and the landscape. and then that line at the top just framing the top, pushing the eyes down to get you to look at what's most important. And then that little bit on the top left-hand corner almost is like a framing, a bit of like a vignette to push the eyes away from that open space in the top left towards the middle of the scene. And it's just one more time to say that composition is king. And when we can adjust the photo ever so slightly, whether you did it while shooting or while editing, and a fraction of an inch from side to side can make such a difference in minimizing distraction and pushing the viewer's eyes towards what's most important. And the composition it's just immaculate. Like, you can't really describe why it's so perfect, but just every little nuance point is getting it to be 10 out of 10 composition. And of course, lighting is sublime. The scene is sublime. All the technicalities, like the threes. Yeah, A plus.
Yeah, well done. All right, moving on to second place. We have this beautiful photo of a puffin by Jeff Goldberg.
Jeff, you have knocked it out of the park. I remember when we first looked at all of these photos, I just had to stop and go, wow. And so often we've been speaking a lot now about composition, because composition is our storytelling. And so often we're trying to lean towards this rule of thirds and trying to keep it on the 1/3 on the one side or the other one. But in this photo, the puffin's coming straight at you, and it's the power of it is that it is central, but its head's not central. You've lifted the head up, so everything is on the top third line, coming back down towards those beautiful orange feet and the hooking of those claws together, how it's flying in, the beak full of fish, the motion blur of the wings, so you get the sense of motion of the bird coming towards you, but still the sharpness of the face and the fish, so that we get kept enthralled at that point. And the wings form leading lines for me. Anytime I want to drift out, the wings pull me back in, just like a wing's flapping. It just keeps on pulling it back towards the body. And I just love that sense of, when I look at the photo, I go straight to that head. There's no drifting, there's no thought besides the fact that that thing's coming straight to me. I feel like it's going to land in my lap, and I love it, Jeff. Well done.
Yeah, I will say with this one, being a guide up in Alaska and guided up in the Northeast and things like that, it is really hard to get a good photo of a puffin, let alone a puffin in flight, let alone a puffin flying directly at you, let alone a puffin flying directly at you with fish in its mouth. So just a fantastic job to be able to capture this moment as it's coming at you. I mean, there's a lot of technical skill that goes into something like that. And so to be able to walk away with a successful photo like this when these puffins are flying around takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of skill and know-how to get to that moment. So great capture.
Yeah, just one more quick thing on this one. A lot of times with wildlife photography, we talk about offsetting the animal. We talk about the rule of thirds and all that. But we don't talk a whole lot about the exceptions, and there's always exceptions to the rules. And the exception, when you want to put the species, the animal, the wildlife, the subject in the middle of the frame, is when you have near perfect symmetry. Well, this is absolutely perfect symmetry, and it creates this beautiful tension that it's in the dead middle, but then also a wonderful resolve. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm looking to the left and the right. It's almost like a mirror image. It's just absolutely incredible. And so I think having that technical skill to know when to do this technique, to when to follow the exception, is just, yeah, perfect choice, perfect execution.
Great. All right, from here, our last photo that we'll be talking about today, in first place for our expert judging choice, we have this fantastic gorilla photo by Gary Price. Julia, do you want to talk about it?
Sorry, I do it. Absolutely, my network was just a little off there. Sorry. This is an extremely special image. It hits all the points here. It's technically extremely strong, sharp focus. The exposure's just bang on. Interesting light and mood. So you got a little bit of a fog in the background, really drawing your attention to the subject. You have that rainy, misty, environmental, moody feeling. We have this unique environment that we don't often see gorillas in. So instead of being like deep in the forest, we are out in a plain with the background behind us. But what makes this photo so beautiful is it precisely in how emotionally impactful it is, and what a strong storytelling image it is. This one in particular is haunting. You're left thinking about it long after you look at it. So one of the things that we were talking about is the gorilla's gaze. Now the gorilla's looking at us, the viewer, and you feel the photographer's connection through the way in which the gorilla is looking at the viewer. It is gentle and open, and it almost makes us question our relationship to the natural world. It is quiet and leaves room for introspection. It's very, very strong storytelling, very strong conservation. Really an incredible, incredible image.
I've been to the gorillas a few times, and seeing them outside of the forest is a very different experience, because most of the time we're moving branches out of the way. To see a silverback standing proud and tall and his back showing with that stance, that really tall stance, the mood, the body language, the weather, it's a rainforest, it's epic. Well done, Gary. Well done.
Yeah, there are two types of photos that I always want to get when I'm photographing big wildlife. I want to get the big wildlife shot that kind of, captures the details, gets into the eyes and the face and the expression, what I would call a big photo. Like you can tell, even looking at your periphery, that's a gorilla photo. But then I also love wildlife and landscape shots, because I think sometimes we get a little bit, too zoom happy to zoom all the way in, and just every square inch is filled with the fur, the hair, the head, whatever. And this photo somehow combines both. Like I don't know a lot of photos where you can get both. You get that big wildlife shot where you can see the details, every little nuanced detail of that gorilla, but then you also get a really beautiful habitat landscape shot out of it as well, to put that animal in its place, in its natural habitat. Where does it live? What does it do? And yeah, just an uncanny way in that moment that Gary captured my two favorite styles of image meshed into one in an exponential, not additive sort of way. So really, really nice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is just an amazing image for conservation. I think like it's just there's so much storytelling here with what's going on in the background and the gorillas that I think so much of us photographing gorillas in the jungle can't speak to, and this does. And I just think that that's what's so compelling about this, and so unique. So really great job, Gary.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, the other judges kind of pointed out two of the three characters, I think, in this photo. You've got the gorilla, you've got that deforested landscape in the background, but the third character that Gary, I think you did a very good job of capturing, was the weather. So the rain on the fur, the wet fur that you can see as the rain's coming down, it's not too blown out. The motion's just captured enough to know that it's actively raining. And that beautiful fog in the background that reveals that landscape, but it doesn't show it in sharp focus. I think those three factors make this just a strong, strong image, and certainly our top choice for our contest. So well done. 3 cheers for Gary. So, folks, I wanted to wrap things up by thanking you for joining us for our 2024 Nat Hab Guest Photo Contest. I think I want to commend everyone who was either mentioned or won today, as well as everyone who took the time to submit some of their photos. We loved seeing your work. We'd love to see some more next time around. So please keep an ear out for that as we go along here. I will say, if any of our folks on the line here are part of any camera clubs throughout the United States, Canada, and North America, We're starting to reach out to camera clubs because we'd love to be speakers out at your camera clubs to talk a little bit more about some of the really cool natural wildlife photography that we do out there in the environment. So please drop your name, your camera club in the chat. We'd love to reach out to you specifically. Brooke will be keeping track of all that, and we'll reach out to your camera clubs if you think it would be great to come talk a little bit about some of the wildlife photography that we do with Natural Habitat Adventures. But thanks to everyone involved, and we wish you the best of luck at the next photo contest.
Yes, thank you to our amazing panelists for this fantastic photo contest. And everybody, just as Mike said, feel free to email me at webinars@nathab.com. I will make sure I get you connected with Mike, and I'll set up with a speaker opportunity at your photo club. But thank you again for everybody who tuned in. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.